I figured, Michael, while I was here, there could be a few more Monster Handler Matt questions that I could try answering.
Yeah, the
Or
community has
either
lots.
the trivia or some of the user-submitted questions. So I have with me, just in case, and this doesn't count as a cheat sheet if you're a Monster Handler, one of the old recovered journals, actually, of Dr. Warden E. Spurritt, that if I want to refer to, I can, but I'm going to try my best to not refer to it.
Who set that rule?
Who set that rule
Yeah.
about that you can use
check
the
in.
journals?
Yeah.
It's you're right as a Monster Handler. This is an inclusive and non-exclusive field of study. So you know it's not a cheat sheet. It's a just a resource you can use. It's resourcefulness.
Okay. Is this for Stumped?
We have one trivia question, then after that, just some regular questions.
Oh, okay.
I do
Because
have
if you
one
use that, I'm
question
just
that
gonna say
came up in
Stumped
the chat
extra
that I
loud.
thought was interesting. Don't know if anybody has an answer for this, but Big Blue Bubble TV. If there was one monster you could change, whether it be design or something else, is there any that you could see being something else?
If there was one monster we could change.
Interesting question.
I have an example.
Okay, I would love to hear it. Here, let's start with
Well,
yours.
Just make sure to speak loud.
I'm talking quite loud. I hope it's picking up. I'm seeing the bars go up, so would love if my strong boy Tring was given more of a chance to shine and really bang that triangle.
There has been some commentary about the fact that for a quad element monster, it has a relatively small musical part to contribute. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, I would love for him to, like, at the end of the song, just really get to...
Sort of like calling the rest of the monsters for dinner, sort of
Yes,
thing? Like,
very much.
dinner!
I think I would love if Atmos, the Celestial, who plays air guitar, I think it would be cool if maybe you could see like air in the outline of a guitar when he was strumming on it, since he's the Celestial of air.
That's a great
Might be a cool
suggestion.
addition.
Don't have one. That's fine. We can proceed with the other question.
Would
It
you
just
like-
came up.
So an interesting, this is an answer but a non-answer. I remember the first time that I observed the riff on Air Island, I thought that it was sort of uninteresting and not particularly creative that the monster played a physical instrument, a guitar, rather than a having it be part of their body or have it be a vocal sound that they produce. Only later did we discover that the guitar itself is a monster in its own right and that the two share a symbiotic relationship. So I was a bit hasty with my judgment on that one. And so now Riff is one of my favorite monsters. I'm trying to think if there's one that I could change. And maybe I'll answer a question at the same time. Earlier in the chat, I saw someone say, how is it that some of the monsters like Kongol and like Pom Pom learned English in order to sing phrases like "Come on, let's go," and a handful of others that we hear in Dawn of Fire. I sort of prefer the monstrous dialect that we hear, something like the Sugavox singing on Sugarbush Island, where it's sort of gibberish to us, but it's intelligible to monsters. So maybe that's a change that I'd make if. But it's also rather impressive that the monsters have been able to wrap their heads around speaking human languages in the first place. Although maybe they're just sort of repeating them phonetically and they don't actually know what they mean.
It must be exposure to monster handlers.
Yeah, that could
Yeah,
be
that
a
could be
prolonged
part of it, yeah.
contact with the human world. Yeah.
Cool. So we do have one trivia question that someone submitted.
No, using the book.
All right, I'll sit on the book.
I think you'll be able to get this one pretty
Oh, I'm
easily.
gonna destroy this precious
Don't.
resource
Probably.
if I sit on the book.
So the question is, how many natural monsters are there in My Singing Monsters? I think you'll get this
Does
one
this
easy.
include both common and rare
No.
subspecies? Okay. So, if I'm not mistaken, there are 31 natural monsters.
They say 30. Where does the one come in for you?
Kana on Tribal Island.
Oh, okay. If you count Kano.
Which
Breedable monsters.
that's
30.
that's fair. And the element of fire is an unusual one to begin with. We've spoken about this before, but despite the fact that fire is officially considered a natural element, there's something special about fire, obviously, since we have the dawn of fire, and it's believed that fire was the first and most powerful element that gave rise to the other natural elements.
Very cool.
All right. Some other questions?
Yeah, we definitely have lots more questions. Some people in the chat were asking about Mimic, which was the code name for a monster that actually was never added to My Singing Monsters. And they wanted to know, why didn't we add it? And maybe you could just share a little bit about that monster for the people who might not know about it.
Certainly. When we were first working on My Singing Monsters, we had the idea that a 5 or quint element monster would have the ability to mimic, to recreate parts that a user would sing to it, and then it could sing it back at them. Now, of course, we later revisited this design idea with the recording studio structure, which came out a few years after the game was launched, and which allowed you to do a lot more than the original Mimic monster was designed to do. You could actually record over any monster that you had on your island and replace their part via the different tracks that you had in the recording studio menu. And so the Mimic concept, which sort of looks like a blue and yellow macaw, the parrot with 3 feet. You mentioned you could bring it up.
Yeah, probably.
I included it on that doc.
So we'll bring up a picture of the concept art for Mimic, but ultimately, with the advent of other quint element monsters in Dawn of Fire that were introduced, like the Candelabra and the Dromedary, we decided to stick with the idea that the monster with the elements of air, plant, earth, water, and cold would be just another quint element monster that has yet to be discovered and that could be roaming the continent, and that we might run into it at some future point. But there are aspects of the Mimic's design which later made their way into a rare monster's appearance, and I'm interested to know if anybody...
No, he's coming in just a second.
Oh, yeah.
I'm interested to know if anybody in the chat can identify which rare monster was inspired by the look of Mimic.
Now, it's interesting because in the MSM video we showed earlier, this harkens right back to what you were saying then about some ideas get recycled. The very concept of this monster got turned in the recording studio, and the design for the monster also got reused.
Right.
So this is exactly the kind of thing you were saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of, typically when we have an idea, it certainly has good points and bad points, and we like to evaluate these ideas and say, well, which would be the most exciting or which would be the most useful for a player to implement. I know that when we were first dreaming up the Unity tree, that was in response to the fact that when you had to place certain decorations and monsters near other monsters, it sort of limited your ability to design your islands the way you wanted to, and so then when you place the Unity tree, that sort of eliminates that. Its far-reaching effects broadcast happiness all over the island, even into structures like the storage structure and the hotel structure. So, recording studio and Mimic is a great example of that sort of idea where we revisit it later and say, well, what's a better way that we could do that?
Awesome.
Mimic is on stream for those.
Fantastic.
Great.
So, to review your question, Monster Handler Matt, about Mimic and the design is...
Has anyone been able to guess it correctly?
Not yet.
Are there any guesses?
Maybe we could put him on the stream again.
a little longer.
Mimic.
Oh, he was on there for a while.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, someone got it. Rare Clamble. That's right.
Correct.
Nice.
The feathered rare clamble recycles those teal and turquoise feathers that Mimic had.
And I think you'll like the person who got it. Their name is Matt the Second.
Ah, Matt the second.
Coming for you.
A disciple. Uh-oh. My job security. Well, you don't have the Warden E. Spirit Journal. And it's not yours. It's mine. It's mine. I inherited it.
Another question?
Okay, yes, of course.
Are we ever going to make an updated My Singing Monsters soundtrack that includes such songs as the Celestial Island song and the Wordos on some of the natural islands?
Mm-hmm. There are some conspicuous missing tracks from the current version of the My Singing Monsters franchise soundtrack. It's certainly possible. There's a couple of ways that we could do that. We could release a deluxe edition that has these added. We could release a volume 2. I think we might wait until we've filled out a few more of the songs, or we've discovered possibly even new songs that we could share, or maybe even dig back into our library of other monster music, because both the universes of the Thumpies, the Thumpyverse, and the Kingdom of Thingia, which is where Fling-a-Thing takes place, also feature music that are very alike the sort of music that you hear in My Singing Monsters. Those universes are connected by the magic of the trees, if you've been reading up on your Star Shop decoration bios.
I've been seeing this pop up a few times. I don't know if it's the same person. Anyways, they're asking who is the monster singing at the end of the MSM opening?
At the loading music.
I guess.
If I'm not mistaken, they're referring to the. We don't know.
It's a mystery.
No one knows.
Just a sound you heard in the distance?
It's a total mystery. So, my understanding is that we've got Gast, we've got Grumpire in the mix for the Shumbagala Boom Boom. I think that's Grumpire singing at its clearest. It's just taking a cough drop before singing. It's entirely possible that it could be the weird reverberation of a dipster throughout the tunnel. It almost has that tinny dip
It's possible.
quality,
Yeah.
but we've never been able to identify it ourselves.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It is.
it's
Very
one of the
interesting.
enduring mysteries of the monster world.
Speaking of mysteries of the monster world, a question that just came in that I think is very interesting from Expo Crusher I Love Diane. Who mines the diamond mines?
Believe they mine themselves. Might be the magic of the mines.
Are they natural formations?
So diamonds and their time-altering properties are again one of the enduring mysteries of the monster world. There's a little bit of speculation that the celestial syncopite was actually responsible for creating the first time-altering diamond. You can see some of the coloration similarities there, and obviously as the caretaker of the element of crystal, it would be unsurprising that there's some relationship there between syncopite and between the diamonds. But as I recall, the way that the Wubbox was first discovered was that the monsters were mining deeper and deeper underground on the natural islands. And so I don't know if that was them setting up the mines, which then sort of magically worked by themselves, or if their monsters sort of volunteered and rotated on shifts and tried to figure it out. Although I'm tempted to say that because we never actually see any monsters going in and out of the mines in My Singing Monsters, unlike the way that the Wonder Mine, we actually know that monsters embark inside and come back out, returning with gifts, that these mines somehow magically harvest themselves.
Wow.
And there's a mine cart there, but I think that's just to throw people off the scent that there's some magic afoot.
Fantastic. Now, if we could review the last answer very quickly.
Yes.
Not the diamond mine one, but somebody asked who the monster singing at the end the song was, and you said
We don't know.
stumped.
Oh man, you were waiting for that.
I sure was.
Oh.
So whoever asked that question, feel free to use the hashtag I stumped Matt.
I stumped Matt.
There you go. Is it a stumping if no one knows the answer?
Someone knows. The monster.
It's a global
The
stump.
the monsters know the answer, I
The
suppose.
monsters
Okay,
know.
I'll accept it. I got stumped.
Fantastic. Okay. Do we have something on the schedule, Mike, or are we gonna bump
We're gonna be
in some
playing Jackbox?
Jackbox
is
should
next.
be. I can switch it over.
Sure.
Unless this never turns on.
The TV has
We are
nothing on
staring
it.
at a black screen. Yes.
We're
Yeah.
just 10 minutes away from the next giveaway as well.
Ooh.
So that's exciting.
That is
This
exciting.
giveaway is anyone or donation?
Let me check.
Let me.
Donation? No, it's not. We just did one. Didn't we?
I do think we.
This
I
one
heard
is anyone.
there might be a special guest coming by
Ooh.
momentarily.
Really?
Ooh,
Really?
fantastic.
Well, we're excited to meet them.
Well, my notes say nothing about this.
It's just a surprise.
Well, I'm
You won't buy.
okay. Well, I'm excited to know who it is. I don't know if we were expecting anyone, but I mean, the surprises.
Just usual office people.
Surprises are
Yeah.
always welcome.
Yes.
I mean,
Of course,
sure,
right? I mean,
there's a lot of other people walking around the
That's
office,
sort
just
of our-
regular employees,
that's
but
sort of our bread and butter around here, right? Like surprises, you know, where we're constantly discovering new things.
it is
So
what we do.
it's unsurprising how many surprises there are.
No surprise.
Is it not connected?
So the next giveaway is for anyone who's watching the stream, and they'll be receiving any monster of their choice.
Ooh.
While we wait for this to get set up, would you like to?
So I was going to mention, somebody was saying on there that it seems like we're like a big family
Mhm.
who gets along, and they'd love to watch us do this all the time. And I wanted to give a little special shout out to Brian out in California, one of our family out there at our California office who is watching right now. So
Yeah, a lot of you know him as
Right
Big
now.
Blue Brian on Twitter.
yes.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
We miss you. We like it when you come and visit. He texted me earlier today and just wrote Canadian chicken. That's all he wrote.
What does it mean?
Why not? Right?
Another enduring mystery.
Maybe it was a reference to someone on
Some
the stream
or
with the
something that
chicken
someone
hat.
had said.
Oh, we had the
Oh,
chicken
maybe
hat,
it was the
yes,
chicken
yeah.
hat.
Could be.
Yeah, we had the chicken hat.
Mystery debunked. That
Yeah.
was a short-lived mystery.
Amanda was also playing as a chicken at one point for Gang Beasts.
Ah.
Right.
Too. There's
So
a
there's
lot of chicken.
multiple interpretations. Well, maybe
Yeah.
it's now back into mystery status.
Maybe he'll let us know.
All right. So as we sort of wait for that to set up, are there any other questions that we can answer?
Absolutely. Who's your favorite Cave Island monster and your least favorite Cave Island monster?
I don't know if I have any least favorites, but but my favorite Cave Island monster is the quad element Yelmet.
Also, big fan of that monster. What a unique sound.
Very unique sound, and the physics of that monster sort of defy understanding. The way it's able to elongate its shape, and it's such a small monster physically to have a quad element status.
Mm-hmm.
It's an impressive monster, and I really like its sound, and the split second that we catch its headgear popping
Yeah,
up and
that's
down
fun.
off of its face. It's got quite a sweet face, which I think it tries to conceal sometimes with the very cool looking, the very epic headgear that it wears. I know that it's very sensitive about that being referred to not as a mask or as a helmet. It doesn't care for that. So headgear is the acceptable way to describe Yelmet's helmet.
Another question that a lot of people are actually asking in the chat right now is, what is the connection between Wubbox and Galvana?
Aha! Yes. Something that has been on our minds as well ever since that the Wubbox was revealed as the creator of the Wublins. So it's nothing new, but it's worth repeating that, of course, both Galvana and the Wubbox are monsters imbued with the supernatural power of electricity, and the electricity is important because we'll have to return to this question in just a second, because
We have a guest lumber.
we have a guest lumbering in.
Oh
Look who it
my
is,
goodness.
everybody! Here, can you shuffle in and
Come
find a
on,
spot?
Bill.
Find a
Grab a
spot on
seat.
down.
Oh, hi,
Bill.
Bill.
Whoa.
Oh boy.
Oh, Bill.
Bill,
How have you been, Bill?
Well, he's been working hard.
He
and
needs to take a
he's
break.
been he's been doing his stuff in the office. You know, his accounting, lots of numbers.
a
But
lot of numbers.
He's
crunch.
also been watching the stream.
Oh, good.
He's having a great time.
one of the most talented employees here. Certainly the most versatile
Very versatile.
in skills.
Accountant,
The
lawyer.
furriest.
Legal
Yes,
fees.
definitely.
Yeah.
Simply incredible.
So
He's not looking too
I
good.
think he needs to take a
yeah,
break.
here. Why don't you, Bill? Are you able to get up?
my
Whoa!
He's just friendly.
He's never leaving now.
Not much, eh?
Bill, hi, Bill. How's it going?
Hey,
Oh,
Bill.
be careful. Your glasses already have some tape on
Yeah.
them there,
I think-
buddy.
Bill,
Alright.
go get some coffee in the break
Ooh,
room.
my feet.
Maybe.
But
Yeah,
make sure-
if you could get us
Yeah.
all coffee.
But don't spill any on your
Yeah.
fur. I'd hate for that because the stain
Try
will
out
never
the
come
VR
out.
room.
Oh my goodness.
They're having some fun in there
You
too.
should check it out.
Thanks for coming, Bill.
Careful
See,
of that
Bill.
camera there, Bill.
Oh.
Whoop.
Oh, bye,
Don't lose
Bill.
your calculator.
Yeah, thank you so much.
What a great
It's
guy.
Good to see him.
Yeah.
Good to see him get away from his desk and come out and hang out with us for a
Yeah,
little bit.
he
a
really
hard
does
worker.
his best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
He
sweet
works
guy.
hard.
Yeah.
He works
You
so
know.
hard.
Very hard.
He's trying.
Whew, bless me.
Would you like a tissue?
Make
Oh.
Galvana bless you.
I'll take one. Make Galvana. Oh,
Okay.
Galvana and Wubbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what a great segue back in.
Jackbox is still being difficult.
It's still being
Yeah.
difficult. Okay, well we can
Alright.
we can
Well,
continue
let's
to
figure
answer
that
some
out.
questions.
Mhm.
So, as we mentioned, both Galvana and Wubbox are imbued with the supernatural power of electricity, and going hand in hand with that particular elemental alignment is a penchant for creativity and the interest and passion in creation. The idea of taking nothing and creating something is shared both by Wubbox and by Galvana. Now, it's still unclear to the monster handlers whether or not these two have ever actually interacted or made contact. There's some evidence to suggest that there's sort of a pen pal relationship happening between the two of them, although how this is being achieved is unclear because, for all we know, they occupy completely different periods in monster history. That may be something to do with their ability to manipulate electricity. I don't know, opening wormholes, writing messages, some when and somewhere else. So it's still being investigated, that particular relationship. But our expectation is that if they ever were to meet one another, they'd have a lot of feedback and interest in comparing their notes about acts of creation, because Galvana enjoys creating things, harnessing the power of its staff, and Wubbox, as we know, also follows in those footsteps by having crafted all of the 19 known Wublin species. So, there you go.
Speaking of Wublins,
Aha.
actually, someone asked, which is your favorite Wublin? I think all of the Wublins are really great because they're so completely different from one another. They're all extremely unique.
And which I think speaks to the idea of Wubbox trying to expand its own supernatural family. For a long time, it was the only supernatural monster in the era of my singing monsters.
Have you
So,
guys seen Mr. Yakub?
have we seen Yakub?
Yeah, he's down that way.
Old lady Jacob?
Ah.
Yeah. Watch the stream
As-
later
as
and,
he's-
and you'll know what
As
it
he's
is.
affectionately known in these parts.
You know,
Let me squeeze him aside here.
of course, my favorite Wublin.
I don't even need this. What
I
am
might be going right back to the beginning, but I think it's Drumroll. There's just something so mysterious about how the fact that all of its many percussionist arms and hands retract into that feathered body, and at any given moment we're not exactly sure how many arms and hands it has. I just also think it has a very sweet and charming face. A face not only a Wubbox could love, but that anybody could love.
I think I'm personally a big fan of Poke because I think it's a truly unique looking monster. You'd be hard pressed to find another monster that resembles Poke in many ways.
Yeah, and Poke's personal life is still a mystery, as its bio attests. We're not sure if the mask that it's wearing is elaborate cosplay. Is it something to cover up some sort of a blemish? Maybe it has a big pimple that it wants to keep under wraps. But it certainly has never communicated anything definitive to me about that. And it's a very interesting monster. I also like the feathers on its back. Poke is another great Wublin specimen, certainly.
Maybe one more question before our giveaway.
Oh, great!
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're saying
because
it's just
we're
about that time.
yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
10 o'clock local time.
C. Rondeau asks, "Who's your favorite of the monsters behind us?"
Ooh, in the mural that we have pictured here. All right, everyone has to answer this question. Well, there's certainly many to choose from.
There
Isn't
are.
there?
I'm getting
Make
a lot
sure
of
you look at
positive
the
energy
bottom,
from
too.
Trink, to be honest. Some
I'm-
very endearing about that face up there.
I'm a big fan of Tweedle personally. I think she's a very sweet-looking monster.
I think I like Jellbilly.
An interesting choice.
There's just something about the
Oh,
stashicles there
I
that
know.
I find very charming.
for me, now all of you can't even see it, and you can't see it, but hidden down in this little corner, we have a baby pango. Yeah. Just
Oh,
little jump-ups.
I take back my answer. Young Pango from Dawn of Fire, very sweet.
Yes.
Round, soft, very cute.
That's the newest chapter.
No, there's a newer one.
Oh, 5?
Yes.